So I've been thinking a lot about burnout, especially in ministry. And this is in the context of knowing friends who are really on the verge of breaking down because they're serving Jesus. And wondering, what's the best thing to say or to do in such situations? I mean, what would you say, to a friend who's sincerely serving Christ, but to the point or a detriment of their own health or their relationship with maybe their family? What would you say to them? You might say something like, please take a break. I think the Christian word is sabbatical, which is kind of like a holiday from ministry. Or the more chim theological phrase is, rest in Jesus, work from rest, that kind of thing. I've heard that a lot. And these are very wise, very loving words. But then, today I was looking at a very controversial verse. It's at the end of Philippians, and this is where Paul kind of like commends a pastor who is burning out. I'm trying to understand, how to square that. On the one hand, he says, here's this pastor, and he nearly died for the work of Christ. And he says that as a good thing. And then he says, he risked his life to fill up or to complete what was lacking in your ministry. Wow, it makes me feel so guilty because I'm lacking, and this pastor is filling up what's lacking in my service or my ministry or my contribution. So how do you square that? Paul praising someone for burning out for Jesus, and the reality of just how painful it is to see your friend burn out for Jesus. How do you balance that? I think what Paul does is very helpful. He puts that pastors burning out against the backdrop of Jesus' ministry and ours. So he says firstly that this guy named Epaphroditus nearly died for the work of Christ. And so it's modeling of what Jesus did for us. So when you see this pastor, you're not just seeing what this person is doing, but you're seeing, in a sense, shadow, a picture of what Jesus has done for us on the cross. Meaning it's not about that person, it's about Jesus. But secondly, it puts it against the backdrop of our contribution. There's something lacking. I want to be careful how I say this. Maybe not enough. Also, very scary. Yeah. But essentially, this church is giving money, but this pastor is giving his life. And I think all Paul is doing is recognizing the value of that, not diminishing that, against the backdrop of his sacrifice, the church's sacrifice, and Christ's sacrifice. And that's the whole big picture. That in the end, what this person is doing is part of a whole, part of the whole offering of the church, but also part of a whole gospel where Jesus is the one who gives to us his life. Not easy. I think still controversial. How would that help the pastor who is burning out? I think what it would do is it would recognize the value of this person's contribution. Yes, they should take a break. Yes, they should work from rest. But thank you so much. Thank you so much for modeling Christ to us. Thank you so much for helping us serve Christ through your sacrifice. And I think we should not forget to say that to our pastors, amidst advising them to take a rest, but also just commending them, acknowledging them, and helping put their sacrifice in the perspective of Jesus' death on the cross. Yeah, very, very challenging.